Today we are going to discuss the Ball poem by John Berryman. This poem is included in the class 10 syllabus of CBSE. Now this poem, before moving to the poem, I will talk about the poet John Berryman. John Berryman was an American poet and scholar. He was best known for the Dream Songs, published in 1969, which was a sequence of 385 poems. He won the Pulitzer Prize for the Dream Songs. He also won the National Book Award. Now, after knowing about the poet, we now move on to the explanation of the poem. This is a very famous poem and, most importantly, very relevant. This poem embarks upon the harsh reality of life that every human being has to experience the pain of loss incurred upon them. The poem inspires the readers to stand up against the misery and sorrows of life instead of being bogged down by them. In this way, the poem becomes a doctrine of life itself. Let's see how the poet elucidates this message effectively through the poem. What is the boy now who has lost his ball? What is he to do? I saw it go, merrily bouncing down the street and then merrily over. There it is in the water. No use to say, oh, there are other balls. An ultimate shaking grief fixes the boy as he stands rigid, trembling, staring down all his young days into the harbor where his ball went. I would not intrude on him. A dime another ball is worthless. Now he senses his first responsibility. In a world of possessions, people will take balls. Balls will be lost always, little boy, and no one buys a ball back. Money is external. He is learning well behind his desperate eyes the epistemology of loss. How to stand up knowing what every man must one day know, and most know many days, how to stand up. So this is the most important message of life and message of the poem, how to stand up. Let's come to the explanation of the poem. What is the boy now who has lost his ball? What is he to do? So the poet is observing a little boy. The little boy was playing with his ball. Suddenly the ball slips from his hand and bounces merrily or joyfully and falls in the water. The poet, who is silently observing or watching the boy from a distance, is now wondering how the boy is going to react to the loss of the ball. Will he be able to cope up with the pain of losing his ball? This is what the poet wonders as he watches the boy who has just lost his ball. How did the boy lose his ball? He was playing with the ball. It slipped from his hand and merrily or joyfully or happily bounced down the street straight away into the water. No use to say, oh, there are other balls. The poet now reminds the reader as well as the little boy to himself that there is no use claiming that there are other balls which can be purchased by money. An ultimate shaking grief fixes the boy as he stands rigid. So we can understand that the boy is overcome with grief. The boy is absolutely grief-stricken by the loss of the ball. He is unable to understand. He is unable to measure the pain inside him as he loses his ball. But the boy has to accept the fact that he cannot retrieve or get back the ball at any cost. And this harsh reality makes him shake, makes him tremble. It roots him to the spot. It makes him rigid. No amount of mourning or lamenting can retrieve the ball, but he has to accept this truth. Now the ball here symbolizes or stands for the lost childhood days of the boy, the cherished fond memories of childhood attached to the ball. So as the ball falls to the water, the poet indirectly makes us understand that all the memories, all the emotions attached to the ball and attached to the childhood days, the lost days of childhood of the boy are lost. And although he can go to a shop and procure or purchase or acquire another ball, he can never buy back the love, the emotions, or the cherished memories associated with the ball or the cherished memories associated with his childhood days. So once the ball is lost, the memories of childhood, the emotions of childhood are lost as well. Although he can lament, although he can mourn, he will never be able to get them back. And the poet says, I would not intrude on him. So as the poet observes the boy suffering the pain of loss, experiencing the pain of loss, the poet thinks, should he go and give him his valuable advice on how to cope up, on how to endure, on how to bear with, on how to tolerate the pain of loss incurred on him? But then he abstains or restricts or restrains himself from doing so. He thinks it will be unwise to go ahead and teach the boy how to cope up with this painful situation, how to endure or tolerate or bear with the pain of this situation, the misery or sorrow of this situation. Because the boy has a long life ahead, which he has to walk alone. The path of life will be full of many such ups and downs, many such adversities, unforeseen, unprecedented adversities. And he has to learn to bear with the pain of those situations. He has to learn to endure or tolerate the agony or anguish associated with the losses that he will be facing or experiencing throughout his life. So he has to take that lesson right from here when he loses his first belonging, that is his ball. So here the ball symbolizes a mortal belonging or any relationship, a dear relationship in our life. The ball is symbolic of all our mortal belongings as well as the cherished, dear relationships that we nurture throughout our life. Just as the boy loses the ball, human beings also keep on losing their belongings. Human beings also keep on losing their precious relations throughout their life. But they cannot afford to drown in depression. They cannot afford to sink in sorrow. Rather, they have to stand up and face the situation bravely with mental strength. They have to face the situation, they have to brave the oddity, they have to face the adversity with grit, determination, and mental strength by overcoming the depression, by overcoming the pain of loss. In that way only can every human evolve to a mature adult. A dime another ball is worthless. So to think that we can purchase another ball by paying some money is a worthless thought, because that ball can never replace or be a proper or suitable substitute for the memories, emotions attached to that belonging to the ball. It can never replace the cherished memories attached to the boy's childhood. Now he senses his first responsibility. So now the boy understands that he has a duty, a responsibility to cope up with the pain of loss. This is a very important line which also comes in questions. That a question is often quoted from this line, that which line justifies that this is the first time the boy is experiencing a loss. Because the poet says now he senses first responsibility, it justifies that it is the first time the boy is experiencing the pain of loss when he is losing his ball. Remember, ball here stands for material belonging, cherished dear relations of our life, and also the time or period of life that we have already crossed or lost. Although money can buy back the things associated with that time or period, money can never buy back or purchase the emotions or memories attached to that belonging or attached to that time. In a world of possessions, people will take balls. Balls will be lost always. So this is a world of possessions. Possessions means something, when you have something to possess, to have. So this is a world where we always keep on establishing our demand, our sense of belongingness. This is mine, this is ours, this is yours. So it is a world of possessions where we are reluctant to leave our own space, our own claim. And people will keep on taking your balls. So you have to acclimatize or get adapted with this harsh reality of life, that you will be experiencing a series of losses in your life. Losses will be incurred upon you again and again, and you have to cope up, endure with the pain of those losses instead of getting shattered. Sometimes people will seize or snatch away your most cherished belongings. Sometimes people will take away people from you in complicated situations. But you always have to retain your mental strength and go ahead and stand up instead of getting shattered, instead of drowning in the abyss of depression. No one buys a ball back. Money is external. You can be rich, you can be affluent, you can have the capacity to buy 100 balls, but that money does not have the capacity to replace the memory or emotions attached to the ball, which is symbolic of your childhood days. Money cannot buy back your childhood. Money cannot buy back the time that you have lost. Money cannot buy back the memories attached to childhood. Money cannot buy back the love, the emotions, the affection attached to your childhood. So money is an external parameter, something very superficial, which does not have the capacity to give you back that abstract feeling that you have lost. It can only give you back the material thing, nothing more than that. He is learning well behind his desperate eyes the epistemology of loss. So his eyes are desperate. The boy's eyes are desperate, like when we lose our mortal belongings, when we witness the death of our near and dear ones, we become desperate. We want to have them back. We want to get them back. We want to re-establish our relationship with those things or with those persons. In this corona COVID-19 pandemic, we have lost so many of our near and dear ones. Our relatives, our friends, we wish to get them back. We wish to re-establish our bond with them. We want to touch them. We want to get back those days with them. But can we? We cannot. We have to accept the harsh reality that what is lost for once is lost forever. It is an irretrievable experience which tears or money cannot buy back. The epistemology of loss is something every human has to learn, and the boy also has to learn. What is the epistemology of loss? The word epistemology is derived from the Greek word epistem, meaning knowledge, and logi means study, so study of knowledge. So here the study of knowledge of loss. So the knowledge of loss is the greatest knowledge that one acquires during his lifetime. Just think, if you think about your childhood and if you think of your time now, you will see the only thing that you can claim was always very consistent is change. And change includes loss. You have lost your days, you have lost your time, you have lost many things attached to that time. Some of you have lost some dear persons, your grandfather, grandmothers. We have lost some elderly relatives, we have lost as we go ahead in life. But we have to accustom ourselves to this experience because this is life. Learning to acclimatize with loss is life. The epistemology of loss, how to stand up, knowing what every man must one day know. And most know many days how to stand up. So every man has to acquire this knowledge, has to master this knowledge, has to master the art of coping up with the pain of loss. Everyone has to accept the harsh reality of life that losses are common. We have to walk through this fire ground of losses with a smiling face. We cannot sit back and succumb to depression or sorrow. Because the ball, which is symbolic of relations or thing, here actually shows how we keep on losing our mortal belongings, our dearest relations through our life. And mourning or lamenting can never bring them back, fetch them back. So we have to learn to teach ourselves how to adapt with these situations, how to accept the harsh reality, how to endure the pain, how to tolerate the agony, the anguish, and stand up straight. If we don't learn how to face the adversity, brave the oddities, we will never evolve into mature adults. Now I will talk about the literary devices in this poem. In the first part of the poem, Anaphora, you can see what is the boy, what, and merrily bouncing, merrily over. What and merrily are repeated. It is called anaphora. Then repeated use of the vowel O, boy now who lost, assonance. As the poem begins, you can almost visualize a ball bouncing up and down the street. This is an instance of imagery. Next part, next part of the poem, repetition of the word ball. Then a dime, another ball is worthless. There is no conjunction. A conjunction could have made the sentence better. This is asyndeton. Similarly, when we have repetitive conjunction, we call it polysyndeton. Use of the sound B at the start of two consecutive words, buys a ball back, alliteration. Assonance is noted in he is learning well behind his desperate eyes. As you can see, repetition of the sound E. Ball word is repeated again in the last few lines. Now, something very important I want to draw your attention to. There is no rhyme scheme in this poem. Now, why is there no rhyme scheme in the poem? Is it just a coincidence or is it intentional? Try to understand that this poem does not talk about the rhythmic romanticism of life. This poem does not elucidate the rhythmic beauty of life. On stark contrast, it brings out the harsh reality of life. And the harsh reality of life is something that is not bound in rhythm. It is unrhythmic, it is unforeseen, it is unprecedented. Life is full of some unforeseen incidents, some unprecedented events. So you cannot expect life to be a rhythmic music, a rhythmic melody. Life is rather a bed of thorns, a path of thorns. And life is rather harsh. Life is a battleground of reality. Keeping pace with the tone of life, keeping pace with the nature of life, the poem is also written in a rhyme structure which is non-rhyming. The poem does not have any proper rhyme structure because this poem is talking about the harsh reality of life. Because the poem is talking about the harsh reality of life and not the romantic beauty of life, the rhythmic romanticism of life, that is why the rhythmic structure of the poem is absent. It is on a non-rhythmic structure, Omitrakhor Chando, what we say in Bengali. I hope I have been effectively able to convey the message of the poem to you, that we have to learn to adapt with the series of losses incurred upon us. Still stand up with courage and go ahead. We have understood what the ball symbolizes: materialistic belonging, cherished relation, and also lost time period. And although money can buy back the material belongings, it can never buy back the emotions or the love, the memories attached to those things. In a nutshell, this is the poem, a very contextual poem that will help you in life to cope up with your pain, to cope up with your misery and sorrows, because this is common to everyone. It is not anyone's alone. With this, I end the poem, explanation and all. If you have any doubt, don't hesitate to drop it in the comment box. Thank you.